I help passionate individuals, teams, leaders, and organizations transform. It's my privilege to introduce our next speakers, Dr. Marcia Reynolds, MCC, and Dr. Sandy Chen, who will share their expertise on the topic coaching for courageous leadership in times of uncertainty. Dr. Marcia Reynolds has coached and trained leaders and coaches in 43 countries. Her books Outsmart Your Brain, The Discomfort Zone, Wonder Woman, and Coach the Person, Not the Problem are all international bestsellers. Marcia holds a doctorate in organization psychology and two master's degrees in learning psychology and communications. She was a fifth ICF president, is an ICF Circle of Distinction, and teaches for coaching schools in the US, Russia, China, and the Philippines. Sandy Chan is an ICF PCC who transitioned into an executive coach and leadership consultant in 2020, focusing on leadership development and organizational empowerment. Prior to coaching and leadership development, she boasts of 17 years' experience in business development, commercial operations, strategic sourcing, and supply chain management in government and top retail groups covering home furnishing, fashion, and sports industries. She's also the former APAC sourcing director at Nike. She also serves as deputy chair of APAC 2022. The wonderful conference that we all are enjoying are thanks to her commitment, dedication, and perseverance. Please join me in welcoming Marcia and Sandy. This is a pre recorded session, so can we have the recording, please?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the online participants all over the world. I'm Sandy Chen, and today we have our distinguished guest, Dr. Marcia Reynolds, with us. Hello, Marcia.
Hi, Sandy. Good to be here.
Yeah, so great to meet you online, and thank you so much for accepting the interview for APEC 2022. You are such a great advocate for coaching and people empowerment. And you are an old friend to the audience in China and Asia. I personally attended your seminar. I read your books. I was deeply touched by your courage, your inner power, and also your elegant presence and your extraordinary insights.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So today we are going to talk about coaching for courageous leadership in times of uncertainties. So my first question for you, Marcia, is why do you think is courageous leadership so important in times of uncertainties, especially, in today, the post-COVID context?
Right. Well, the one thing about COVID is that it taught us is that we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. We always believed we did, but we don't know. But you see, that's one of the things the brain absolutely doesn't like is not knowing, and so we'll even make up what we think we know is going to happen. We know this is going to happen when there's no evidence, and so uncertainty, the brain is a meaning-making machine, and it wants to make meaning out of everything we see. Even if we know that it could be wrong, it still wants to do that. So when we're faced with not knowing, that's one of the most uncomfortable places that anyone can be. So a leader has to know that the people that are looking up to him or her are scared because they don't know what's going to happen. And again, that darkness, that uncertainty, that what will happen tomorrow, what will happen to me and my family, almost paralyzes them. They can't think, they can't do their best work. So the challenge for a leader is, how do I help people to still have hope and create the future as best we can, to be strong in this moment instead of being paralyzed by fear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially in today's turbulent times, we are facing very challenging reality, and it's very crucial for leaders to better interpret the reality and to create a future. So, Marcia, what do you think are the typical patterns and beliefs or
Mhm.
fears of leaders that stop
Mhm.
them from
Yeah.
becoming better?
Well, first off, oftentimes when a leader is having difficulty and they come to me for coaching, I don't ask them what they are doing that's not working. I say, define to me leadership. What is a leader? Who are you as a leader today? And because oftentimes they're stuck in past beliefs about what is leadership. I'm supposed to have all the answers. I'm supposed to lead people forward. And not recognizing that, especially today, that as people are going through this, that leaders have to develop empathy, and being able to sit in silence as people talk about their fears. That's difficult for leaders. They think they're supposed to step in and fix things and, make things happen. So redefining who I am, that I am supportive, that I'm in service of the people who work for me. I don't have to be the commander and let's move forward through this. We'll get through this. They have to start with that redefinition, and it's very scary for them, to redefine who I am as a leader, because they've held on to that definition for so long. Yet with time and as they move up into leadership, the redefinition of who I am as a leader is critical. Otherwise, they will not succeed. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, most of the time they're scared to death of emotions. They don't want to deal with people's emotions. It's like, get over it, because it triggers in them that I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. And I don't want to show that I don't know how to handle it. When again, one of the best things they can do is just allow people to express themselves. And most of the time, if you allow them to express their fears and their anger, their frustration with what's going on, and just give them the safe space to do that, the intensity of their emotions will subside, and then the leader can say, so what is it you need to move on? And most of the time they will say, no, that's what I needed. I needed to express it and to be accepted and not judged. And then in the clearing, they're ready to move on. That's one of the things leaders need to be able to understand, is how do I just allow people to be human and have human reactions without demanding that they be different.
Marsha, how do you think emotions can affect people's self-belief and their patterns? Many leaders, they don't pay much attention about the emotion part. They always make rational decisions and use the left brain,
Well, first off, that's a fallacy. There's no right brain, left brain. The brains are talking to each other all the time.
Yeah, you're a psychologist. Yeah.
That's an old myth that we used to believe, but that's been debunked. Now, the interesting thing is that we always make decisions with our emotions, and then we justify it with logic, and who taught me that was, in my last company, we had a lot of scientists as well as engineers. And the scientists said, we always have to make choices between two things that we're not certain of. So we're always making emotional decisions and then looking for the evidence or the non-evidence to back it up. So accepting that we are always making decisions based on emotions, and so do we have good reasons for that decision, or are we just rationalizing our choices? Is a good question coaches should be asking leaders. But to step back and to say, what truly went into that decision? Was that based on what facts do I have that I know to be true in this moment? Or am I just hoping things will turn out, and just moving forward? So, emotions, I remember back in the days when I worked for companies, the whole thing about, leave your emotions at the door. Well, we can't, because humans are emotional beings, and emotions occur before logic, and so we used to think it was the other way around, that I think, therefore I am. And for hundreds of years, we believed that. But in 1995, they perfected an fMRI, and they were able to scan the brain to really look at what happens when we think. And what they realized is that instead of thinking and reacting, we react and then we think. And so knowing that I am having an emotional reaction, even if I shut it down, the emotion was first, and then I made the decision. So stopping and saying, what is it really that I'm feeling right now, that I'm afraid of, that I'm hoping will happen, that, people are telling me I should do, but I know better, to really walk through that, which is the value of coaching, because I cannot do that sorting out of how my emotions affected my decisions. I can't do that on my own. I need someone outside of myself to ask me those questions. We call it in neuroscience an external thought disruptor, to break through the patterns of thinking. Because I have patterns that need to be broken. So someone outside of you has to do that. And it ought to be a trained coach.
Yeah, wonderful. It's quite common actually during the COVID. The leaders, they have many opportunities to really engage with very challenging situation and make tough decisions. And they also need to have tough conversations with their employees. So what do you think are the crucial factors to turn the tough conversations into positive results?
Well, there's actually 3 things that leaders need to remember. And this is one of the reasons why, the ICF doesn't count coaching hours when a leader coaches a direct report, because it's very difficult to differentiate the intention of the conversation. So the 3 things leaders need to be aware of are intention, emotion, and the respect they feel for the person. So the first one, intention, most of the time when leaders go into a difficult conversation, they have the intention of changing that person's mind. It's their goal. It's what they want them to think and what they want them to do. And that's the quickest way to turn off the conversation, to not get a positive result. Before you go into a conversation, a leader has to consider, what is the goal this person wants that would inspire them to change? You have to be there for them. So does the person want to be a leader and is sabotaging that? Does the person want to be seen as an expert by their peers, but they're always telling them, their peers, why they're wrong? Does the person just want less stress, or to know what's possible in the future? What's important? And if the leader does not know what's important to that person, which they ought to, but if they don't, then they need to ask. That's the first thing they need to understand, is what's most important to you right now, in your life, in your goals at this job. And then they can base the conversation in, I want to help you achieve your goals, but here's what's getting in the way. Would you be willing to look at what you're doing that's getting in the way of you achieving your own goals? So they have to start with intention. And then they have to learn emotional intelligence to be able to regulate their emotions, because if they get frustrated or afraid in the conversation, their emotions, I don't care if they don't show it in their face, but emotions generate energy that's measurable.
Yeah.
Their emotions will shut people down. Their emotions will either open up the conversation and help people to feel safe and open up, or they will shut people down because they can tell the leader is irritated or angry or afraid. And so they have to set their emotions before they even go in, to be curious and care. They set their emotions, and then they have to be able to regulate, when am I falling out of that? Can I shift back to being curious and care? So it's intention, emotional shifting. And the third is respect. Do I believe in the potential of this person? Even if they aren't showing it today, can I believe in them even more than they believe in themselves? That's critical. I mean, there's so many movies, even when the kid that was bad, somebody believed in them and it changed their life. But it's true. If we let the person know, I believe in you. I know that, if we work through this, you can accomplish this. They feel valued. And all of us need to feel seen, heard, and valued. And when we feel seen, heard, and valued, we will be with that leader and look at what's possible going forward. And that's how we shift it to positive results. If they don't feel seen, heard, and valued, then the conversation won't have a good ending.
Yeah. Attention, emotion, and respect. So it sounds to me, actually, these three factors all focus on person, people. And I know that you have a new book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem. Would you like to elaborate more about this topic? Coach the person, not the problem?
Right. Well, when people have challenges, most of the time we're dealing with people that have a level of intelligence. They're fairly smart. They could probably figure out what are the options I could do if I had the courage to do them. What's the threat? What's the reward? What should I try? That's problem solving. And many leaders over the years were taught lots of problem solving techniques. And that's fine, but that's the external problem. Why is this make a problem for this person? That's the question. Why can't this smart person figure this out on their own? And that's when we coach the person, we're looking at what are the beliefs that they're framing the story around the problem. This is a problem because this is what's going to happen. And I know in the future this is going to happen. And these people are doing it this way. I mean, there's all these beliefs that they're blaming and they're creating a future they don't really know about. We start even with looking at the beliefs that they're holding the story together. Is there anything else that could be true? And the assumptions about the future that they're making with no evidence. What else is possible that could occur? So when we start to ask those questions and help people to see outside of their story, we first listen to the story that they're telling. And then within the story, we can hear the beliefs that, are limiting their view. And again, the assumptions about the future that they're just making up, because we make up our reality all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And what's the fear and what's the shoulds that people are telling them? We start to hear these words that we just offer back. This is what you said. What do you think? And it's amazing when you just even reflect somebody's thinking that they start to think about their thinking. They start to question their own story. And once they start to question their own story, they can see beyond the story that they're holding today to have a bigger reality, which creates bigger possibilities. So when we coach their thinking, it's far more powerful than just trying to look at coaching the problem solving, the external challenge that they're facing. It will change their mind. It will change their behavior for good. Because once we expand their thinking and change the wiring, they can't go back. So they see themselves and their world around them in an entirely new way, which is an incredible thing for a leader to do for someone. We do that in coaching, but for a leader to do that, it's the leader we then will always remember, even if they've scared us and made us angry. Like, for example, I had a leader that I was complaining about everybody not working hard enough, because I was a high achiever and I did so much work. And my boss said, wow, it sounds like everybody disappoints you. And I thought, am I disappointed? And then he said, will anyone ever be good enough for you? And it made me recognize what standards I was holding for myself and for others and how I was judging people and hurting my relationships. He changed my life with one reflection and one question. And it made me really evaluate what I was doing that kept people away from me instead of aligning with them and making them my teammates. So it's so powerful to coach the person's thinking around a problem, not just the problem.
Yeah. So I have observed many leaders, when they try to reflect on themselves, and one of the most difficult things for them to do is to let go. Especially the emotion, the negative emotion. And you also mentioned about the self-identity part. So I observed one of the challenging things for them is to let go of the past glory, let go of past pattern, let go of past identity, let go of past belief. Because if you are not able to let go, you are not able to unlock the capacity and space to embrace new possibilities.
Absolutely.
So do you have any tips to share with us how to better let leaders to let go?
Yeah.
This is also a courage, I think.
Well, it is courage to redefine who I am.
Yeah.
Because there's always an awkwardness in between the who I thought I was to who I can be, as I take on that new identity. But I often find that, I can tell you so many stories. In fact, in my book, The Discomfort Zone, there's like 6 different case studies that mostly has to do with the leader changing who they think they were in order to be who they need to be now. But, it's a common story when when leaders are promoted, especially from frontline leader to higher level leader. And that's happening a lot now. The young, really smart leaders are being promoted like many levels, but they, like you said, they're past glory. They're who they thought they were was the problem solver, and they get in and fix things, and now as they move up the ladder, they have to be a leader of leaders.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I help leaders be more effective, not just doers to solve problems? Who am I as a leader of leaders? And that's a shift in identity, which is also a shift in behavior. But again, oftentimes leaders will say, I don't have time to do that. They come into my office, I have to just tell them what to do. And I always say, okay, so in your job right now, what are some of your responsibilities? And they'll say like, well, we have to meet the numbers, but I also have to strategize what we're going to do in the future, and and work with the leadership team. And I say, okay, so all these people coming into your office every day for answers, how much time are they taking away from you being able to strategize about the future and work with your leadership team? Wouldn't it be great to get them to think for themselves so you have more time to be the leader you need to be today? So you have to also help them see the gain of shifting who they think they are. Not just that it's a job description requirement.
Yeah, and also it's a human tendency to focus on the negative consequences.
Yeah.
So as coaches, yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, they call that a negativity bias.
Yeah.
But again, because the brain's primary function, the reason why it has to make meaning, because the brain's primary function is to protect you, not to make you smart. It's like, the primal function of the brain is to keep you safe. And so the idea of anything that's going to trigger my fear, my courage, it's like I'm not going there. And so we make up these rationalizations for not taking the risk, for meeting the challenge, for being someone else. We have to bypass our brains. We have to outsmart our brains.
Outsmart our brain. I love this.
And say, thank you, brain, for keeping me safe, but it's now time that I take the risk.
Yeah, we need to grow. We need to develop ourselves. Yeah. Marsha, I'm quite interested in listen to your personal stories. What is the most difficult thing for you to let go in your so far life experience? And what that change?
You mean today?
I mean, your personal experience
Oh,
in the past.
yeah.
What is the most difficult thing for you to really let go?
Well, for 27 years, I've had my own business. But when I worked for companies, the last 11 years were very male dominated companies. And I was able to work my way up into leadership because I like to take control, take charge. But I also saw myself, I like to work with archetypes, and I was a warrior. It's like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to see what needs to be done. I'm going to, chop off people's heads and fix things. They need to see the right way. Well, that would work, to a certain degree. But then when I moved into leadership, that pattern, that behavioral pattern of being the warrior woman, just wasn't working for me anymore. And in fact, again, my boss once said to me, you've made it. You don't have to be that force anymore. You have to be different. You need to align with the leadership team that you're now a part of. He said, instead of trying to force people to do what you want, could you inspire them to see what you see? And that's when I realized, well, I can be an inspirer. I like to be a storyteller. I think I've been a storyteller all my life. Can I not share the vision of what I see and use stories to help them see the possibilities with me? So I had to shift my behavioral pattern, that archetype, from being warrior to visionary. Instead of being the rebel, to be the revolutionary. And in my book, Wonder Woman, I talk about archetypes because it's so important that we shift them. So there was a letting go of that fighter to be the inspirer when I work for people. When I started my own business, I think the biggest shift came for me is that I do see myself as being totally independent. I like to do my own thing. I like to control things. It's helped me to be a success. But as I got into doing some bigger programs, I do programs with coaching.com. All of a sudden I had this massive team, and I had to let go of being in total control and recognize they're doing a lot of things I don't like to do, and to be not just the content expert, but to be the team member, to truly collaborate with them, to create something. That's amazing, the programs that we're creating. And I have a new book contract. I'm working on a new book now.
Wow.
In support of my breakthrough coaching program that I do for coaching.com. So, how do I align? And the schools I teach for, that I'm partnering with coaches to, be faculty and do school. So I'm much more of a team player these days than being the independent achiever. So that was a real shift for me as well.
Wow, wonderful. You are an amazing woman. You have tried so many different things. And I can always feel your courage when I listen to your seminar. You talk about you join a class to learn the playing and to totally be a different you in front of thousands of people. That was really amazing. If you can really let go your old self and give your 100%, you can be a totally different self. So Marsha, what are some potential tips or advice you can give to the women leaders that how they can become better in their workplace?
Right. Well, I'm going to lay out some things, but I do a women's leadership program actually for in China. I will be doing it in December.
Wow. Welcome back to China.
If you're interested, let us know. Middle of December. It's an online program that we do, and with a translator. So I if they don't speak Chinese, they can understand me.
Yeah.
But, the main things that we look at is the first thing is what I was just talking about, really looking at, it's not changing, that I have to change me. I just have to really look at shifting behavioral patterns. So we look at the behavioral patterns that help them be a success, but are no longer serving them. So how can they, what is also within them? What voices do they have that they haven't used in a long time? Like for me, the inspirer, the storyteller. So we do a lot of work around different selves that they can bring forth, not just the one pattern they're stuck in. But the other thing that I think is really important that we look at that women often don't do, and men too, but is claiming our inner power. So women are really good at these days of recognizing their skills. I can do this well, what they can accomplish with, what they do, but they are very weak in identifying who I am. They're often are the imposter. People will find out I'm not that good, and they're kind of weak inside, even though they're strong on the outside. And so we do some work around what are your greatest inner strengths that you need to claim, like courage, determination, sense of humor, generosity, being able to see the big picture. What is it inside of you that you can bring forth and claim? Because that's how you need to show up before you go into that leadership meeting with all those men. Who am I to be in this room? Not just what I can do, what skills and knowledge I have, but who am I? So we do a lot of work in identifying what that is. And I share my story with them that's when I was very young, I had a lot of trouble and I was in trouble, and my life looked very dim. And I had a lot of people say I would never accomplish anything in this life, and it was a woman in a very dark moment in my life who I was like saying, I'm a disaster, I'm a failure. And she got up and she like shoved me against the wall and said, you have no idea who you are. You need to cut that out. She said, you're so strong. You're so smart. You have this deep care about people. You need to get that in here so you can do anything out there. She taught me who I am from the inside. Not that I was good in school. Oh, yeah, I was good in school. That was fine. And that I could accomplish things. But why could I accomplish things? Because I was smart, because I was determined, because I had great values. She taught me to claim that and bring that out in the world and hold that out. This is who I am, and it's okay. It doesn't make me conceited. It makes me strong. And we need to know what that is and claim that as women and support it in each other, in our support of women, so we can accomplish what we know we can out in the world. So we do a lot of work around that. And emotional intelligence, which is an important factor. And then I teach a lot about how to be very clear on setting boundaries when, like in meetings, there's unconscious bias and women are often shut off and, their ideas aren't heard. We need to speak up and say, I'd like to finish my idea and then I'd be happy to hear yours, So how do we set boundaries as well? So, those are like critical pieces that I love teaching women. So again, I encourage women to go through that, but also, that's all in my book, Wonder Woman. That was my doctoral dissertation.
Wow.
Was about smart, strong women in the workplace. What are the challenges we face and what we need to do? So I love teaching that and sharing those ideas.
Great. Yeah, I used to talk about open up, show up, and rise up for women leaders that first off need to open up our hearts and to really embrace different ideas. And then we need to, lean in and show up our presence. And then we rise up to really prove that we can make a better contribution, make better values.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So actually, I think for most of the women's, you know, because in the typical male dominant workplace, they tend to, behave more brave and aggressive and actually try to hide their vulnerable part.
Yeah.
So what is your understanding about the relationship between fear and vulnerability?
Yeah. Well, courage is
Or
acting
courage and vulnerability?
No, that's okay. Courage is acting in the face of fear. We don't have courage unless we have fear. Otherwise you're just bold, bold actions. But to know I am afraid and I'm going to do this anyway. So when I said oftentimes when we make changes in our life of who we are and what we do, it feels awkward at first, and that's okay. It should feel awkward because we're changing, and we'll get through the awkwardness and then it'll become habit. So knowing that I am afraid and I'm going to do it anyway, but being able to speak that, the vulnerability is a strength. To say, this is uncomfortable for me, and I'm going to stand forward and attempt this anyway, and to let people know that as leaders that we're human, that they need to know that because otherwise they'll think I'll never be as good as you, and that drives me crazy when people say that about me. I'll never be as good as you. It's like, at my age, I've been doing this for a very long time and working through my own fears and who I am and my own limitations of I can be that person. It's like, no, you can't. Yes, I can. That to allow people to even tell you that dark moment in my life where I almost gave up my life, to let you know, and to let you know that moment happened. I was 19 years old and I was in jail because of the horrible things I was doing to myself and how my life had turned out. And that woman turned me around. To say that I had a very difficult childhood and that I did some things, not necessarily hurting other people, but hurting myself. But I had someone help me recognize my strengths. And I rose up, as you said, to rise up, and to go back to school and to recognize I was smart enough to get through school and to get those degrees. And, but every job that I took, it was scary at first. It was new, it was scary, but I was going to do it. I was going to step into it and I was going to learn. Learning requires that we have to admit we don't know everything. To have the openness to learning, that's a vulnerability. To tell someone, I really don't know, can we learn this together? How powerful is that? So vulnerability is a big part of leadership as well as being able to activate courage.
Yeah, exactly. You show your vulnerability. You demonstrate that you need help. Everybody needs a supporting system. Does. Yeah. And also, the progress takes time. It's just not happen over one night. It takes time. Yeah. So what is your definition of power? Power.
Actually, that's really interesting. When I was doing my research and writing my book, I heard this. I went to a conference, and the woman who, for Forbes, every year she writes the 100 most powerful women. Okay, she does an article, and then looks at the top 10 most powerful women, and interviews them. And she said that so many times they said, "Oh, but we don't like the word power. That feels like it's like dominating and hurtful." And she said it was Oprah who defined power the third year Oprah said, I also for years had trouble with the word power, but then I recognized there's two powers. There's power over people, or there's power to create possibilities that inspire people to move forward, to help them to see what they can do, that we create this together. So the power to create is different than the power over. And I'll never forget that, because that's, yes, I can be powerful. I should step into my power so I can create all these things that help other people to move forward. That's true power.
That's
Yeah.
empower. That's
Yes.
empowerment.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw the research, and it says 95% of the time, actually people are running like autopilot.
Yeah,
They are
absolutely.
unconscious, doing things unconsciously. Only
Yeah.
5% is conscious.
Right.
So how could we as coaches better help people to be
Yeah.
more conscious about,
Yeah.
or bring the unconscious into conscious?
Well, again, that's part of that. We don't think about what we're doing is a part of our survival. We can't stop and think about everything. So we count on our brains and our routines, to be able to do things. Can you hear, I'm sorry, can you hear that noise? No, you don't. Okay, good. There's a noise going on, and I just needed to know if I needed to fix it. Okay. So, that we operate on autopilot is a natural part of being human, and to be able to function, survive during the day. But we don't stop and think about our thinking. And there's a lot of, thinking fast and slow. That book indicates we just don't do it. And this is why we need a coach to help us just for that hour that we're together, to stop and think about our thinking. So what is it that you're thinking about this challenge that you're facing? What is it that, you were thinking when you had that meeting and you got really upset with people? Can we step back and take a look at that? What was irritating you? What were you afraid was going to happen? So we can't take our thinking out of our head easily, and we don't coach ourselves. If there's any emotion involved, we cannot coach ourselves. We need someone else to be able to take the story out of our head and to look at it here. Oh, look at my story. This is what I'm saying. And isn't that interesting? Because then when I see my story out here, I can see the gaps in my logic. I can see the assumptions I'm making up about the future. I can see the shoulds that people are telling me things and then getting in the way of my own dreams. I can't do that on my own, but a coach can help me do that. So we put our stories out here, then we can evaluate our stories and see what's possible beyond the story. We have to see the story first before we can see beyond it. And that's what coaching does, to see beyond the story. And then I can see what else is possible.
Yeah, exactly. Our human memory has the reconstructive nature. And so when we record our past experience, it depends on the way we interpret the past events. Sometimes what we remember is not necessarily the truth. And so the role of coaches is very important to help us better understand
every time we remember
stories.
Something, we pull it out and
about the reconstructive nature of human memory. The coaches can help people to
pull that out. Well, again, it's like the research says that every time we pull out a memory, we change it. And I love the Einstein quote, the reality is an illusion. There's no such thing, but a very, very persistent one. We believe this reality that we create, but we're creating it all the time, because when you think back of what you thought about yourself in the world 20 years ago, it's totally different than now. So we're constantly creating our reality. So can we just create a new reality for ourselves? But again, because the brain wants us to feel safe, we believe the stories we make up, and the past defines the present. So it's our belief system is totally based on past experience, not what we're seeing in the moment. We do not see reality in the moment. We're making up our reality, you know, what the meaning we give to what we see based on past experiences. You know, and so that's why, again, we need a coach to help us see, you know, how we're defining the story, because it's all based in the past. You know, it's all based on beliefs, based on experiences, what we've learned, what we've read. You know, I had somebody tell me the other day, but I read this, and I'm like, well, that's nice. You know, was it validated what you read? Where did you read it? You know, just because you read it doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah.
You know, but we make up a reality, and then we look for what supports our reality. So she'll read an article to support her belief and say, but I read it. and won't read the articles that doesn't support her beliefs. You know, so all we do is we ingrain our belief systems and our stories and make them even more rigid. And to break through the stories, we need, again, somebody outside of us, what I said the neuroscientists call an external thought disruptor, because we get stuck in our patterns of thinking. We need someone outside of us to even just reflect. So coaching isn't just about questions. I like reflections even more. Like, so here's what I hear you saying. So, you know, what brings you to that belief? You know, or is there any other possibility? It's the reflection where they start to hear their thinking. That's what's most important. You know, to pull the thinking out of their head so they can analyze it and see it in a way they cannot do for themselves. It's not that they don't even want to because it's scary. They can't, you know, because the brain stops them from fully analyzing their stories on their own, because the brain doesn't want them to be uncertain, to make uncomfortable changes. The brain wants them to be comfortable. So to be able to go through the discomfort of learning, we need someone to help us walk through that darkness.
Yeah, exactly. So we talk about mindset, we talk about belief, we talk about pattern. So I'm personally very curious to know what kind of role does body play in this process? Body.
Oh, body.
Body. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, you know, what oftentimes we only use what we call cognitive awareness. So when we listen to people, we listen just with our brain and what we hear, and then we process with our cognitive brain, which is short-term memory, which is also why we never remember things right, because we only use our short-term memory. To fully hear someone, we have to activate our entire nervous system. The nervous system is fully connected, you know, and we forget that the brain is connected to the heart, is connected to the gut, you know, and it speaks to each other all the time through what's called the vagus nerve. And so as I am coaching, I'm picking up things with my gut and my heart. They're major receivers. The gut has over 500 million neurotransmitters that connect to create thought, but it just can't translate it. So it sends it to the brain to create words. So to be able to sit back and say, what am I picking up from my heart? What am I picking up from my gut? And to have the courage to share that, to say, you know, it sounds to me as if, you know, you're not just angry with those people, but you're disappointed, you know, because you felt it with your heart, that disappointment. But you don't say, I felt it with my heart. Just say, it seems like you're also disappointed. Or is it both anger and disappointment? Could you explain what that means to you? You know, and oftentimes, like I was coaching this leader, and he was very afraid to have a meeting with a woman that he was going to have to demote. He had promoted her supervisor, and she was not doing a good job. And he was like, she's going to be reactive. I don't know. I don't want to deal with it, and all this stuff. And then he got quiet and he looked away, and he said something under his breath. And I said, could you share with me what you just said. And he said, actually, I think I'm part of the problem. He said, okay, I felt there was a sadness there. He goes, not sadness. He says, I'm embarrassed and I'm afraid, because I felt it in my gut, but I couldn't really identify what that was. He says, I'm afraid to say that I promoted her too soon and it's my fault. And I said, well, how does that change your conversation? He said, well, maybe I can offer her some leadership training and prepare her to move back into the position in the future. But he wasn't going to do that until I recognized that he was feeling some sadness, some embarrassment, some fear, and we feel that in our body. And we offer what we sense, and we can be dead wrong, but it still helps them think about what they're feeling too. So we have to really activate our entire nervous system to be able to receive what they're giving us and offer it back. That's critical to coaching. And to know that that's important, because we're only taught as children that, what's important is neck up, the brain. We're not taught to trust our heart or listen to our gut. In every country, I've taught in 43 countries, every country has sayings about, I should have listened to my heart, or I should have trusted my gut. We know we need to do that, but we're not taught that it's important. It is important. It's vital. So, yeah.
What are your suggestions? Are there some simple steps for people can take the first step to really listen to our heart?
Okay. Well, actually, if they go to my website, covisioning.com, there's a secret page. If they type a secret page, if they type in the search is up on the right corner. Coach the Person Resources. Type that in the search, and it'll come up with a secret page that has videos and podcasts, and it has a visualization, an audio version even, that they can listen to open their head, heart, and gut. Okay. But quick steps, other than going to that page, is before you go into any meeting, use your phone, look at your pictures. Probably you're going to have a picture of your children or something you did fun over the weekend, or a place you've been that you just, saw a sunrise, and it'll make you smile and open your heart. So look at your pictures. And then to open your gut, just remember a time in your life where you spoke up or stood up in spite of your fears. And what did that feel like? And you will open your gut. So you can quickly open your heart by being grateful for someone or something in your life, and your gut by a memory of when you activated your courage. You can quickly do that and fully open with curiosity, compassion, care, gratitude, and courage. Feel those three things before you go into a conversation. And the person will feel safe with you, as well as you will be able to hear better what they really need and what they want. Yeah.
We always need to find the anchor for our emotions and try to reinforce our positive energy. Yeah, great. Well, we have heard so many wonderful insights from you. And Marsha, I'm curious to know, where does your courage come from?
Well, it comes back to that moment that woman reminded me of who I am, because she also reminded me, because I have all this, and I do have privilege where she didn't. In the life that I have the responsibility to use my powers and my privilege to create change in this world. And that's what gives me, it's my mission of making a difference in this to coaches who are also making a difference for others. That gives me the courage to keep moving forward, because I have that passion for that, for coaching.
Yeah, when we think about something bigger than ourselves, to try to leave some legacy on this world, try to make some positive difference, impact on this world, that make us much more powerful and stronger.
in spite of your fears.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for everyone who's taken on coaching, whether you're a leader that's just using a coaching approach, or you're a coach and that's how you define yourself. You know, we are, as Margaret Wheatley says, warriors of the human spirit, you know, and so I'm grateful for all of us that are moving in that direction. You know, but the final thing I always say is to remember it's your presence, no matter where you are, that it's your presence that makes the difference. People want you to be present. They don't need you to be perfect, but to show up with that courage and that care wherever you are is so critical, especially in these uncertain times.
Yeah. Courage, care. You
Mm.
know, China is still, we are still going through a quite
I know.
tough period,
Yeah.
leading a lot
Yeah.
of challenges related to
Mhm.
COVID. Do you have some suggestion for people
Yeah.
here in China? How can we better go through this tough period?
Right.
How to reclaim our inner power and to
Yeah.
be more courageous to face the adversities and challenges?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because we often tell people not to lose hope, but on the other side of hope is fear. So when we start to feel hopeless, we're afraid. That truly what it is to stay really present in the moment of what's in front of me, what is needed from me right now, what am I called to do? So like for me to be able to do these remote programs, because you know I used to go to China twice a year for 11 years. I did. Okay, but now I'm doing what I can remotely, you know, to help us all stay present, to know that we make a difference to other people. What is calling me in this moment? What is it I can contribute to? You know, and keep your focus on that, because we will get through this. It will be something different, you know, in another, you know, when you think like, okay, a year from now it will be different. But what am I called to do that I feel could be significant for others? Keep that in mind, and that will help you keep going. Okay?
Focus on presence.
Yeah.
Focus on what we can control, what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay. So Masha, if you're gonna to write a new book, what could be the name of your new book? Any topic in mind?
Well, you know, I told you I just signed a book contract 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And so it's based on my breakthrough coaching program that I do for coaching.com. So the title is Breakthrough Coaching.
Breakthrough Coaching.
But I'm doing new research, you know, because I don't want it just to be the same as Coach the Person. But Coach the Person is doing well. And it's been translated in so many languages. But this is going to go beyond. I'm doing a lot of new research on different ways of being with people, and what are we really listening for that's going to make the difference for them. So and it's going to be kind of a book workbook, so there'll be exercises and resource tools. Every chapter there'll be like at least 6 exercises and 6 resource tools. So it's content and practice, so it'll be something that you can use with others and keep improving your skills. So I said I wasn't going to write another book, but here I am.
Yeah. When will it be published?
Probably not till next fall, because it takes, because I don't publish my own books. I work with a publisher, so I won't finish writing till March, and then they have to review it, and then we have to do editing, and then they review it again, and we do editing, and then they publish it. So it'll probably be in the fall, but we're going to come out with a new breakthrough coaching certification program on coaching.com as well. That will be in conjunction with the launch of the book. So stay tuned.
Looking forward.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much, Masha, for your time. I know it's very early for you. You started 5 p.m. and for our interview. 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's 6
For the
o'clock in the
interview
morning.
session. Really appreciate your commitment,
welcome.
your engagement. Yeah, every time we talk to you, we always receive a lot of energy, power, inspiration. Feel
Thank you.
really grateful. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Masha.
thank you. All right.
Okay.
We'll see you.
Hope
And I hope you
to-
have a wonderful conference. I hope it's hugely
Thank you
successful.
so much. And
Okay.
hope to see you very soon offline and
Yeah.
hopefully in Shanghai when you're back to Shanghai.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Masha. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marcia and Sandy, for what a marvelous conversation, what an inspiring conversation. I hope all of you have got the so many pearls of wisdom that Marcia has shared. If not, the recording is always there for you to go back. I can see our next facilitator is here. Winston, over to you for the next session.